Hey guys, it's AnimeBallZ here, and today we're going to be doing the second part of What If Naruto Was an Engineer. Most of this video was already done, so I just wondered why not just upload this video the day after the last one. As you can see, that's exactly what I'm doing now. There's nothing much else I want to say in the intro, so without further ado, let's get into the video.
Winter time, all the time, ooh, yeah. Look at the way that I move, swag, disrespectful and I'm rude, okay. I had cocaine in the school.
Much time passes, and this means Naruto has a lot more time to focus on improving his technologies. He makes his repulsors more energy efficient, but not really more powerful. He also upgrades his Chakra ball multiplier to 1.7 times from 1.6. He thinks I should keep to these things and focus more on Chakra control. After about a week of missions, Naruto and Sasuke go head to head against each other. Naruto faces him and says, "I'll win this match, Sasuke." Sasuke says, "I haven't shown you everything I have yet, Naruto." His eyes spin, then his Sharingan takes form. Naruto thinks, "What is that? The Sharingan?" Sasuke throws two kunai at Naruto, but Naruto dodges both. He grabs his electrical kunai, then throws it at Sasuke. Sasuke dodges it, but gets hit by the wave of electricity. He gains a small bruise and his hair becomes more shaggy. Sasuke then runs right at Naruto. Naruto flies towards him and shoots a Muon blast at him. Sasuke predicts the attack, and his Sharingan also lets him move right past him. Naruto then uses his repulsor kick, and Sasuke isn't fast enough to block. Sasuke falls back a little, then Naruto runs up to him. Sasuke pulls out a kunai, then both of their kunai clash. Sasuke pulls back, then swings. Naruto slightly swerves out of the way, then uses a Muon blast again. Sasuke uses his kunai to block it, and it cracks the kunai, also causes Sasuke to knock back a little. Sasuke drops his kunai, then jumps back. Naruto launches a long-range Muon blast, but the blast gets too slow. Sasuke literally just moves his head and dodges the attack. Naruto thinks, "My blasters aren't good for range, but how is he dodging my attack so effortlessly? The Sharingan really is something else." Naruto then flies up and throws two shurikens. Sasuke dodges both and throws his own kunai. Naruto gets stabbed by the kunai and falls to the ground. Sasuke runs up to him and tries to stomp him into the ground, but Naruto uses the Muon blast. Sasuke gets hit by it in the right chest and he falls back a little. Naruto stands and uses another repulsor kick. Sasuke gets hit in the gut and falls back a little. He weaves fast hand signs and uses his fireball jutsu. Naruto sees the wave of fire come to him and flies out of the way. He gets hit by some fire, then he rolls and the fire gets put out. Naruto weaves hand signs of his own, then 25 shadow clones appear behind Sasuke. They all rush onto Sasuke, but then he poofs away. Sasuke then appears behind Naruto and powerfully kicks him in the back. Naruto falls forward, but then turns and uses a Muon blast. Sasuke dodges the attack and cuts Naruto with a kunai. Naruto grabs the kunai, but his hand starts bleeding. Naruto kicks Sasuke's gut, then jumps up and uses his repulsor kick right to his chin. Sasuke flies off of his feet and falls back. He rolls away, then Naruto throws 3 shuriken. Sasuke dodges all 3, then Naruto pulls the shuriken back. He turns and spins very fast. He then hurls the shuriken back at Sasuke. Sasuke dodges all 3 again, but then gets hit by a wave of electricity. He falls to one knee, then Naruto hits him with a Muon blast. He falls back, then Naruto's shadow clones come and attack him. Naruto uses his Muon blast, but this is a bad mistake. Sasuke uses this as a chance to boost his fireball. He destroys all of the shadow clones on him, and then he stands against Naruto. They are both panting, then Sasuke rushes Naruto. Naruto throws a punch, but Sasuke swerves out of the way and kicks his rib. He fractures his rib with a powerful kick, but he spins and kicks across Naruto's jaw. Naruto spits blood and drops to the ground. He shoots a Muon blast, but Sasuke dodges and kicks Naruto to the ground again. Naruto rolls over, then Sasuke uses the fireball jutsu a 3rd time. Naruto shows his burn injuries and shows that he's bleeding quite a bit. He stands and Sasuke kicks him across the face. He lands and hooks Naruto's jaw. Naruto's headband falls off, then he kicks Naruto's knee in. Naruto falls over, then uses a Muon blast to give himself some distance. He flies off, then lands at some distance away. Naruto takes a Chakra ball and eats it. His muscles enlarge slightly and his veins become more prominent. His eyes slightly glow and his clothes and hair begin to flow. He says, "It's over, Sasuke." He flies up then zooms in Sasuke's general direction. He lands in front of him, then he pretends to use a Muon blast. Sasuke dodges an attack that doesn't even happen, then Naruto elbows his nose. Sasuke falls back, then Naruto kicks him across the jaw. He flies up with his repulsors and dives down with a powerful repulsor kick. Sasuke slams into the ground and he cracks the ground. Naruto lands and Sasuke's Sharingan deactivates. Sasuke stands slowly and then slashes his torso with a kunai. Naruto spits blood, then Sasuke grabs his head and slams it into the ground. Naruto taps out and says, "Okay, fine, you win." He rolls over and starts panting. He spits out some blood then grunts from the pain. Sasuke falls to one fist and knee. He turns and says, "Of course I did." After a while, Naruto gains access to his chakra nature much earlier due to his more expansive knowledge of chakra. He manages to learn the wind cutter technique and learns to enhance weaponry with his wind. His wind and electricity form a pretty devastating kunai. Also, Sasuke and Naruto's Muon Fireball is very devastating. It also proves to be quite surprising since people don't expect it. No one really knows of Naruto's technology existing or any technology like that existing, so when they see it they get pretty surprised and aren't prepared for it. He also uses a jutsu called Gale Claws that gives him claws that cloak his fingers. It looks similar to the claws that Naruto has from his Kyuubi tail cloak. It gives him actual claws that can send mid-range wind slashes. It also gives him a slight boost to overall punch and slash power. Naruto gets bored of the low rank missions and forces the Third Hokage to give them a C rank mission. Naruto has a much easier time persuading the Third Hokage to give them a C rank mission because the Third Hokage has heard of Sasuke and Naruto being very strong genin. Kakashi's even told the Third Hokage of the Muon enhanced fireball that they seem to use sometimes. They get the same mission of bringing Tazuna to the Land of Waves. Naruto brings all of his equipment and 2 chakra balls. Kakashi notices the puddle of water and notes it in his head, just lacking cannon. The 2 demon brothers then spawn from the puddle. Naruto turns and sees this. He turns on one of his repulsors and hits one of them with it. Sasuke turns and weaves hand signs. He uses his fireball jutsu and Naruto enhances it with 2 Muon blasts. The 2 ninjas' chains melt and their clothes burn off. They also gain terrible injuries across their bodies. The fire dies down, then the 2 ninja can barely stand on 2 feet. Naruto grabs his kunai and holds it tight. A cluster of wind chakra forms around the kunai. He throws it at super speed and it stabs into one of the brothers. The electricity bursts out and that demon brother passes out. Sasuke runs right at the other one and kicks him in their chin. He slams his jaw closed and breaks a lot of his teeth. He then falls behind and falls unconscious. Kakashi says, "You two really do have some skill." Naruto says, "Of course." He walks over and pulls out his kunai. He puts it in his pouch and they continue walking to where they're supposed to go. They make it to the place and when Zabuza comes, things end up much different to the show. When the sword comes swiveling towards the group, Kakashi tells the group to duck. Naruto ducks under the sword and shoots his Muon blast right at it. He weakens the sword and also gives it a weird shape. He doesn't make it more blunt though. Zabuza lands on his sword and shows himself. Naruto rushes him on sight and just uses his repulsor kick. He turns after landing to see that Zabuza turns to water. He turns and sees Zabuza at a further distance. Zabuza says, "How rude." Naruto grabs his sword but is overwhelmed by its heaviness. As you can see, his technology makes him a more devastating fighter, but it doesn't make him stronger. He drops the sword and Naruto throws his kunai. Zabuza dodges and goes to grab it to be cocky but gets shocked by electricity. Sasuke activates his Sharingan and then rushes him. He throws one punch and Naruto slides over Sasuke's back and lands a repulsor kick. Zabuza falls back a little, then they use their Muon enhanced fireball jutsu. Zabuza shows minor injuries like Kakashi then says, "You kids are impressive, but let's see if you can handle this." A water dragon forms and Kakashi steps forward. He copies his jutsu and the 2 water dragons hit each other. Naruto says, "I had him, we had him." Kakashi says, "This guy is more than you can handle. Move back." Naruto says, "No, it's not." Kakashi says, "Naruto, move back, listen to me." Sasuke looks in surprise and thinks, "Sharingan?" Kakashi turns back to the fight and then zooms at Zabuza. Kakashi throws 3 quick attacks and Zabuza is forced to block the final kick. Zabuza follows with his own 2 cents and lands a power punch to Kakashi's chest. He tries to go for a hook but Kakashi seamlessly dodges. A water clone of Zabuza appears next to his sword, then he throws the sword at Zabuza. The sword was also aiming towards Tazuna, so Naruto sees and pulls Tazuna out of the way. Sasuke sees and throws a shuriken. Zabuza's clone dodges but he pulls back with a thin and almost invisible wire. The clone disappears and Sasuke catches the shuriken smoothly with 2 fingers. Kakashi eventually ends up in the water prison and Naruto and Sasuke take their chance to fight. Naruto flies with his repulsors and flies towards Zabuza. He throws his electrical kunai right towards the water prison, but one of his water clones sacrifice themselves to get shocked. Naruto then leaps at him and uses his repulsor kick. Zabuza ducks under it but Naruto quickly swivels and tries to kick him again. Zabuza pushes his leg back then punches Naruto to the floor. Sasuke then slashes his neck deeply with a kunai. He throws a second kunai at the water prison but it's again interrupted. One shadow clone blocks with the sword and then rushes Sasuke. Sasuke dodges the first slash and some of his hair gets slashed. Sasuke then kicks him and tries to punch him but he punches the sword. Zabuza then goes in for the final slash but Naruto hits him with 2 powerful Muon blasts. The sword then cracks from the blast. Sasuke gets up then they both rush at Zabuza. Naruto shoots a Muon blast but Zabuza ducks under and dodges a swing from Sasuke. He sweeps his feet then kicks at Naruto. Naruto blocks and Sasuke is kicked away. Sasuke rolls away then dodges a sword swing slightly. Naruto then lands a repulsor kick to his jaw. He knocks Zabuza's clone back slightly, then Naruto throws a Fuma Shuriken. Zabuza easily dodges, but it turns into a clone that kicks him. He blocks easily and takes a simple step. Sasuke falls back to Naruto and Naruto says he's strong, and this is his clone, I've got an idea. Sasuke says, "What?" Naruto says, "Trust me." Sasuke says, "You want me to just trust you?" fine. He uses his fireball jutsu, then Naruto enhances it with his Muon Blast. Zabuza uses his sword, but then it melts and bends again. It is surprisingly sharp still though, since it's hitting the flat part of the sword and not the sharp part. Sasuke throws one of Naruto's electrical kunai, but then Naruto uses his powerful wind cutter technique. It destroys the clone, then another comes and hits Sasuke forward. Naruto turns and grabs the clone. He then uses a close-up Muon Blast. He destroys it, then gets kicked to the ground. He turns and flies over one of the clones. He lands next to Sasuke, then he pops a chakra ball. He smiles as his eyes glow, and his right hand starts swiveling with wind. He then uses the Gale Claw's jutsu. He rushes at the clone and slashes at it. He distorts the shape of the clone slightly, then punches it out of existence. Another two come and Naruto says they just keep coming. He launches many Muon Blasts to make Zabuza's clones constantly move around, then he uses his wind cutter technique. He destroys all of the clones and he flies up. He says, "Sasuke, handle this." Sasuke sees a brown ball drop and walks over to it. He crushes it with his shoe, then turns to the Zabuza clones. Naruto dives down to the real Zabuza and uses his large wind cutter technique. Zabuza looks up and is forced to let go. Naruto throws a kunai at high speed with his wind, then he shocks Zabuza. Zabuza stumbles back, then Naruto zooms at him. He slashes him with his claws and Zabuza falls back. Naruto swivels around and hits him with a repulsor kick. Zabuza flies back and rolls away. He says, "This isn't the end." He turns and zooms deep into the bushes. Naruto scoffs and his Muon blasters stop slightly glowing. Sasuke clashes kunai with another clone being all bloody, then he almost gets slashed with the sword from behind, but then all of the clones turn to water. He drops to his knees and passes out, but Naruto catches him. He says, "You'll be okay, Sasuke." So that will conclude the second part of what a Naruto was an engineer. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this because I certainly enjoyed making it. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.